Welcome, everyone. This is our real estate veteran-friendly agent radio show covering San Diego County, Southern California. And our purpose of the show is to bring information, to provide education through the veteran-friendly network of agents and lenders who understand and they are strongly committed to supporting our military families. Our host today is Jim, who is a licensed real estate agent, and our guest today is Jason Gordon, who is a financial lender, is a VA financial lender, also part of our network, who supports our military families in the San Diego area. So if Jason and Jim are ready, please welcome to the show.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe. It's a privilege to be here. And our special guest today is Jason Gordon. Jason is a long-term competent lender, friend of mine. He is client forward. He thinks about what's best for the client. And I wanted to have the privilege to introduce and have Jason talk a little bit about himself in terms of what he can do for veterans. He has several accreditations. Jason, would you let people know a little bit about you?
Absolutely. Hello, gentlemen. Thank you very much for the opportunity and for having me on your show. My name is Jason Gordon. Just a quick bit of background on myself. I have originated residential mortgage loans since 1999. I actually got into the banking world back in 1991. In fact, we're right about that 30-year anniversary of when I first started banking and lending. I was obviously 4 when I started, right? But I've been there for a while. Just through the course of my career, I've, indirectly or directly through originating and or managing, helped thousands of home buyers and homeowners. I do a pretty strong amount of my percentage of the loans that I originate are VA loans. I do hold what's called a certified military housing specialist credential that allowed me to just learn more about just the inner workings of the VA loans, the clientele that we serve. And I have a lot of personal feelings about the VA loans. I just believe that they are the best loans for the best and most deserving population. And I'm always happy to help out veterans.
Well, thank you, Jason. And it is a real privilege to be working with you as a veteran Chamber of Commerce. I want to say that we're not lenders, we're not mortgage, we're not licensed real estate agents or anything like that. All of our transactions are conducted by licensed real estate agents and licensed lenders. So we take no part of that. Our role in this process is to bring forward the experts in the field who have the knowledge, the expertise, and the licenses, the legal licenses to conduct the business. But the benefit that your group offers, whether you're a lender or an agent like Jim, is bringing the understanding, the mindset to the marketplace, the understanding that the benefits that veterans receive when getting a VA loan, and also increasing the possibility of this military families and veterans, for all of us who are in the military or veterans, to be able to take advantage of those benefits. But with that, I'm going to pass it on to our host today, Jim. Please, I know you have a few questions for Jason, right? I'm guessing.
I do.
Okay, good.
Jason, in addition to being and knowing how to work with veterans in the VA system as a lender on behalf of the VA, I think what's most urgent in the minds of buyers these days is how do they compete in this market, which has seen multiple offers on homes in San Diego County, 850,000 and under, seeing 5 to 10 offers. How can you help them become successful there? That's just one of the questions that's pressing. Preparation is almost always the key to that. But I wanted you to elaborate on it. And so a lot of questions, often asked question is, how often can I use my VA entitlement, my VA home buying benefit? I'll go to mute, let you talk.
Absolutely. Well, I'll address the bigger picture question there is, The underlying backbone of economics is supply and demand. And right now we are really seeing those dynamics at play. We have a high demand of buyers in the market wanting to purchase homes, but a very short supply of available inventory. Just by nature, that puts the leverage over to the sellers. And right now you're seeing sellers put their house on the market, and within moments or hours, they have multiple offers. That puts the seller in a position to kind of say, who wants my house bad, the most, right? How much are you going to pay? How much are you going to pay? And at some point you get that, what I call the eBay syndrome. Well, I'll pay 500, I'll pay 505, 510. And at some point, obviously, it levels off, but that is part of the dynamic. Another part of that dynamic is the sellers are starting to dictate, at least in their minds, whether it's them personally and or the real estate agents helping them out, as to who might be that most desirable buyer. And financing does play into that. I hate to use the words cash buyer, but that oftentimes seems to win in most markets. As a mortgage lender, I don't like the words cash buyer too much. And and the fact of the matter is, most of the buyers out there are not cash buyers. And so what we oftentimes have are listing agents who are employed by the seller of the home. They are kind of, suggesting in many cases, in many instances, to their sellers not to accept certain types of loans. And unfortunately, VA falls in that category sometimes. And in my humble opinion, I think that's wrong. It's with respect to those agents, more often than not, that comes from a lack of knowledge of the VA program, and more so because some agent heard from one of their colleagues that they had a bad experience with VA, and suddenly they just think all VA loans are not going to be the ones to go with. And that's a big part of how we help our veterans. Is we do a pre-approval process that is significantly more thorough. And do you gentlemen mind if I just go over quickly kind of the distinguishing factors of a pre-approval?
Well, please, you just summarize on what are the three main points, so the audience can understand what are the priorities. That'll be great.
Well, yeah. So first of all, there are two things that a lender can do for a home buyer. One is called a pre-qualification. One's called a pre-approval. Big distinction there. A pre-qualification essentially is tell me, don't show me. And based on what you told me, not what you showed me, I believe you can do this. But at some point, you have to show us. And if there's any disparity between what you told us up front and our perception of what you showed us later on, then every conversation up until that point is voidable, which is not a very good way to do business, right? And not a very good way to plan your biggest purchase of your life. So a pre-approval is the exact opposite. I don't need you to tell me. Show me your financials and I'll tell you how you look on paper. And what we do at AmeriFirst is we take a step further where we actually have what's called an underwriter who makes that approval decision, get involved early in the process. So what that does is a couple things. When we get the approval, it becomes essentially airtight. I can let the buyer know, hey, great news, you are pre-approved. As long as you don't change who you are moving forward on paper, we know you're good to go. So what are examples of how you change moving forward? Don't quit your job. Don't go out and buy a new car. Don't go out and, and do things that are going to change your financials, right?
Don't move out of the country.
Yeah, exactly. So kind of freeze who you are. And then the focus is on the property once you find it, right? So that's a big part. But if you take it a step further in this market, because of the before mentioned economics at play, what a lot of these sellers and the listing agents who are employed by the sellers are doing is they are looking at multiple offers and saying, okay, we have multiple offers at the same purchase price. How do we distinguish which buyer we want to accept? And what some of the more seasoned and skilled listing agents are doing is something called a cross approval. This is not required, but it's becoming more and more of a trend. A cross approval essentially is put your cards on the table face up and show us what you're holding, right? So let's just say I'm helping Joe. Joe is my client. And I have a pre-approval letter signed by me, signed by my company, AmeriFirst Financial, that says Joe is pre-approved to a sales price of, let's say, $500,000. Well, that letter gets in the hands of that listing agent at some point. It's usually a company's they written offer to buy that property. And at that point, the listing agent, if they do a cross approval, they will have kind of a bias when they look at that and say, well, I don't know who Jason Gordon is. How do I know that Jason and Joe aren't best friends? And Jason just created a letter for Joe and that Joe's kind of wasting our time. So they may require what's called a cross approval, where they say, I don't know who Jason is, but I know my favorite lender. Let's make up a name, Susie from XYZ Mortgage. Susie's my favorite lender, and I want her to look over Jason's pre-approval to make sure that Jason actually did his job. That's an example of a cross approval. And by us doing all the due diligence that we do, having the underwriter's notes in there, having what's called an automated underwriting report in there, when I get Joe's permission to share his information with Susie, and she sees all the due diligence that we've done, what it often does is Susie will usually say to me, wow, I don't even do that for my clients. And at that point, I'd say, very politely, are we good? Oh, yeah, we're really good. I'll let the listing agent know that Joe's a bona fide buyer, that Joe can perform. And that really, it may seem trivial, but when you have those before mentioned dynamics at play, it's really helping our VA buyers, or even non-VA buyers for that matter, get their offers under more favorable consideration than if we just did a pre-qualification.
Well, that's a pretty awesome explanation. Any questions, Jim? I think Jim is muted. So I do have a question from LinkedIn that just came in, and is asking about the cost of getting a pre-qualification or pre-approval for the process.
It's a very good question. We do not ever charge any application fees. And even if I get you approved, there is no obligation to use us. You're not walking into a bear trap by having a conversation with me. My goal is to ascertain three things. What are your goals? How do you look on paper? And do you fit into the guidelines? And at that point, I can report back to you with a lot more certainty. And ideally, at least in my opinion, ideally, in that process, I've earned your trust in your business. But yeah, there are no fees down that road.
Okay, which you actually covered. His second question which was, if there is no cost, can someone get multiple, or is it advisable to have multiple approval letters from different lenders?
I think any answer I give other than yes may sound like it's a self-serving answer. I don't want it to sound self-serving. Mm-hmm. I work for a direct lender. Well, let me back up. The goals most borrowers have, whether they're buying a home or refinancing an existing home, they want the lowest cost, the lowest rates and payments. They want the best service. We all want that. I own property. I know I wanted that when I'm a borrower. The company I work for, AmeriFirst Financial, I don't want this to sound like a commercial, but I want to give you a proper answer. We are what's called a direct lender. So we do have contracts with multiple lenders across the country. Some of these lenders you know, like US Bank, Wells Fargo, Chase, other banks or lenders that we have access to, you may not know them by name, but we have a system to aggregate all the lenders that we work with on any given moment of any given day to see who has the best pricing for that profile at that moment. Remember, the market's constantly moving. And that's one thing people sometimes forget. They say, oh, I got a quote from XYZ Credit Union in January. My rate is 2.25. Okay, well, we're at the end of May right now. The market's changed. You didn't lock in that rate for the last 5 months while you're shopping for a home. And so a big mistake people will often make is they get different quotes at different times. And with respect, they think they're doing their due diligence at a high level. But what if lender A quotes you on Monday and lender B quotes you on Friday of that same week? What if pricing got better during that week? Well, lender B is going to sound better. And you think, oh, I got the better quote from lender B. I'm not going to call lender A back. But if you called lender A on that same Friday, they'd say, oh yeah, well, our pricing got better too since then. So the market's constantly moving. And so to tie that question together, Joe, having the ability to aggregate multiple lenders across the country, as we do as a direct lender at AmeriFirst Financial, it equips me to do the shopping for the client. But again, I don't want to say, one-on-one or publicly on a big broadcast here that you should never shop around, because that does come across as very self-serving. I don't want us to be that way. My concern is when people talk to multiple lenders, they sometimes get different information from different lenders, and it causes frustration and confusion, which can make the home buying process a little bit less desirable. My thought is, in my friendly advice, whether it's me or anybody else you work with, is if you get a loan officer who you're considering working with, Google that person's first name, last name, and the word mortgage. If you can't find anything about that person, that is a concern, right? Are they hiding behind their company's logo with some marketing campaign with the commercials every 20 minutes on the radio or television, or are they personally accountable for the outcome? In fact, the website that's been popping up in the background there, VIPborrower.com, takes you to an electronic business card, and on there you can actually find my Yelp page and reviews. I bring that up not to self-promote, but to give you the fact of the matter is, most mortgage professionals would never have a Yelp page because you have no way of altering that. You're walking the tightrope without a net underneath you in the middle of a windstorm. Right. You better do a good job each and every time. Otherwise, people are not going to give you good reviews. And it's just my friendly advice, whether it's me or whoever you work with, or wherever you have someone you care about work with, make sure that they are personally accountable for what they do and what they say.
Well, that's a very good answer, and I appreciate that. And I think one of which kind of goes back to our mission, and as Jim and I discussed so many times before, our mission is to have the right people, the right licensed people, to do the right for our military, for our veterans. And I know everyone is, it's a business, so everyone makes money, and that's life, and that's good. But how we do that, I think, is very important. And so our mission during this program and this project is to make sure that the number of military families, the number of veterans increase from renting to owning. And based on research, we found that less than 20% of military veterans use their VA benefits, which is astonishing to me, since there's such a great benefit to use. But that's our mission, and you are now part of our mission, and I appreciate that. And I think Jim is offline right now, but we are running. This is our last 2 minutes of our session. It went really fast, Jason. So we promise to bring you back and add a different component to it, different topic that is more specific. But your presentation is awesome. You make things very clear, very straightforward, and we like that, because as a VA home buyer myself, the thing that took away from my experience was how easy it was, because I work with the right people. So providing that right team for our military community is important. That's why Jim and I came out with that mission to help the San Diego County military community bring the people together so they can work with the right people. And we want to thank you for being one of those who will be supporting our community. So we have 1 minute left. Do you have any questions, Jim? We cannot do real lips, but thank you.
You're on mute, buddy.
There you go. Well, Jim, I'm going to ask the question that I see that on the chat, and that's the one you were talking about right now. And if people want to know how people can get in touch with you, Jason.
Absolutely. Well, if I may just quickly say, I'll give you that answer first, and I'll give you something else. Mm-hmm. The best way, couple of ways to reach me. If you go to VIPborrower.com, that is an electronic business card where there's different ways to reach me. Once you're on there, there's actually hotkeys where you can call, text, email me. and it does give you access to the website, to the Yelp page, other information about me. I think it's a good way to just kind of anonymously, be able to kind of investigate me and, on your own, do your due diligence, make sure I'm someone you're comfortable having a conversation with. But phone number, I'll just give that to you right now if you want to hear that, is 619-200-8031. 619-200-8031. That is my cell phone. I'm brave enough to get that out on broadcast here. You're welcome to call or text. Just make sure if you're texting me for the first time that you clarify who you are and how you met me, because we all get a lot of spam texts nowadays. But I also wanted, Joe, if I may, just to tie in with what you said, a big reason why Jim and I work together, he gets it on that level as well. We're both long-term thinkers. We don't look at people with commission breath. We're here to take care of them. If the situation dictates that the buyer or home owner is not ready yet for a loan, then we let them know and we make a plan for the future. We keep things in place, but all of our business is on repeat and referral clients. You're not going to see me on the radio or, putting flyers on your front door. It's all word of mouth, and you can't run a word of mouth business if you're not doing a good job when you get the opportunity. So I just want to give my kudos and my appreciation to Jim as well, because he understands that really well in his business.
Yes, and thank you. And he's actually the one that mentioned your name because of that reason. Like, we want people who understand the mission, who want to help the military, that is not just chasing the dollar, because that get us, it's a very short-term mentality. We want long-term mentality, build relationships, support the community at large, and that's what we're looking for. So thank you, Jason. Thank you, Jim. We have a schedule, another broadcast for next month, and we'll love to bring you back, Jason, and cover some of the questions that were sent to us through the chat, so we can select certain topics that we can go over and start helping our military families and veterans be more aware of what's available in when it comes to buying a home using the VA benefit.
My pleasure. And I appreciate the opportunity. And for any of the viewers, please submit your questions, and we'll be happy to go through them, and we'll make sure we address as many as we can on the next show.
Thank you.